And a good Thursday night, everyone. Thank you for joining at this PM at GM Chumash Class by MC and MO. Figure that one out. Okay, so this week's Parasha obviously deals with the korbanos, the sacrifices brought in the Beis Hamikdash, and I saw a couple beautiful thoughts that I would like to share. First one that I saw is on this, that the Torah, there's a Gemara in Menachos. Towards the end of Menachos, a very famous Gemara. It's said to make people feel better about themselves. It says like this, that regarding every level, there are levels of korbanos, right? There are different levels of how much money a korban can cost you. There is the flour level, the korban mincha, which is the cheapest. There is the bird level, which is the medium, and then there's the Cadillac at Cadillac level. Bringing a sheep or a bull, cow, that level. So now, interestingly, on every single level, regarding every single level, the Torah ends with the same words after describing that form of sacrifice, that form of korban. The Torah ends off with the words, Ishe Reach Nichoach Hashem. Ishe Reach Nichoach is a burnt offering that brings about a pleasant smell pleasant fragrance to Hashem. So the Gemara Menachos learns out from this that regarding the animal, regarding the behemoth, it says it's a reach nichoach, and a bird, it brings about a reach nichoach, and a mincha, the flour offering, brings about a reach nichoach. Says the Gemara, the Lamed. This teaches us she'echad hamarba ve'echad hamamit, whether one can do more or one does less. As long as the person's intentions are to serve Hashem. Right? This is very comforting to those who feel that they're doing what they can, right? And they see what other people do around them, right? They say Hashem tells us that it doesn't matter if you bring the flour mincha, if you bring the flour korban, it doesn't matter if you bring the bird korban, it doesn't matter if you bring a whole animal, a whole ox to the Beis Hamikdash. Whatever you do, Hashem looks down and says that I see that you're serving me with all you can and all your heart. It's beautiful. So a person might think, though, a person should take these words to heart and should take chizuk from these words always in what is her service to Hashem. But at the same time, a person could think, and we'll talk about in a second who made this mistake. A person could think that as long as I have the right intentions, why do I have to spend money on the, better kind of esrog on Sukkot? I'll get a kosher one. Hashem knows I'm doing what I can. Hashem. Now, if a person's really in that situation, then absolutely. But if a person's in a situation where he can step up what he can do, right? A person cannot think that I can do less, and that's also good because I'm doing it for Hashem, right? This was actually, whether you can have this thought or not, whether you can do this or not, is actually probably the first machlokes in the history of the world. The first disagreement in the history of the world. Now, the first disagreement in the history of the world, I think recorded in Chumash, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that between Cain and Hevel, right? Cain brought a korban that was made up of his weak kind of whatever things he grew, right? And whatever nebuchdik things he brought as a korban, right? And that was his korban. And Hevel, his brother, brought the fat of the cream of his crop, right? Literally, the fattest of his sheep and cows and whatever. and that's what he brought. And the Torah records that Hevel's korban was accepted, and Cain's korban was not. So the on a simple level, you could think that Cain was just a cheapskate, he's a tightwad, right? He understood that there was some sort of a thing called a korban, which actually was his idea first. If you look at the Psukim, right, he was the first one to ever try and bring a korban, as the Torah records, right? And for some reason he was even though he had this good idea, he was a bit of a cheapskate, and he didn't want to actually spend money on it. And Hevel did, and that's who Hashem accepted. So it's more than that. It's deeper than that, right? Cain understood completely what a korban is, but Cain had this thought. He said, the point of a korban, right, as the Ramban talks about at the beginning of this week's Parashah, famous Ramban, is to bring yourself closer to Hashem. How exactly it does it? Ramban talks a little bit about it. Still, it's at the end of the day, the Ramban says something to the effect of it's a sod, right? It's something that is secret to us, right? We don't fully comprehend it. But at the end of the day, says Cain, the point of a korban is to come close to Hashem. That's the point of the korban. And the point is not what I brought. The point is my thoughts behind it. The point is my intentions when I bring it. That's all that's important. And Cain felt that to emphasize that point, I'm specifically not going to bring the best that I have. So I want to show the world, I want to establish this in the world that the idea of a korban is about coming close to Hashem. It doesn't matter what you bring, it matters what you're trying to do. And Hevel felt, no, there's something to taking from the best of what you have to bring to Hashem. And as you see, Hashem agreed to Hevel and not to Cain, right? Meaning that beyond what the intentions that you have when you bring it, meaning that you have intention to use this as a vehicle to come close to Hashem, there's as well an aspect of that the person needs to be an oived, needs to be doing some sort of service, needs to be working on himself in what he does to bring that korban. Meaning that there's part of the avoda, part of this service of a korban, of a sacrifice, is not just the concept of wanting to do something to come close to Hashem. Part of it is doing other actions that make you, that bring yourself closer, meaning actions that are hard for you and that through them bring you more into the service of Hashem. And that is giving up the best of what you have, right? Everyone knows it's harder to give up the best of what you have more than something cheaper, right? It's always easier to pay less for your esrog, right? It's always easier. But part of the avoda of serving Hashem is giving the best of what you can do. Right? That is part of what Hashem wants. And that was what Hevel taught us. By him being accepted by Hashem, his korban is being accepted by Hashem. So even though it says that Ishay Reach Nichoach L'Hashem, that on every level, whatever a person can do and does with the right intentions, right, of wanting to serve Hashem, using it to serve Hashem with, so that is beloved to Hashem. But that is only when that is what you can do. If that is not what you actually can do, then you're missing you're missing part of what you can accomplish, and you have not done the service of Hashem to its fullest extent. And now, just another thing that connects with this, I saw a fascinating idea. We have a concept in this parasha of what's called a korban oila v'yoreh. That a korban that, depending on how wealthy you are, will depend on what you're obligated to bring. Right? So a person that is well enough off will have to bring a korban that is an animal, right? A sheep, a cow, someone who is not does not have that same does not have the same means can bring the birds, and someone who is really poor can bring a flower offering, all for the same obligation, right? That's called the korban ola v'yored. It's called a sacrifice that goes ola v'yored, that goes up and down, depending on who you are. So, if you are the wealthy person, so you bring this situation that the psukim are describing, you bring an asham, a korban, one of the kinds of korbanos is called an asham. Let's say you are at the level that you can only afford birds. So then all of a sudden you have to bring two. You have to bring either two torim or two bnei yonah. Right? Two of the pigeon or turtle doves. Right? Why all of a sudden asks the Ibn Ezra on the psukim over there, the Ibn Ezra asks, why does he have to bring two? The rich guy brings one animal. Now that you have less money, now you bring more. You bring two birds. Why do you bring two birds? Right? And the Torah tells us one of the birds is brought as an oila, right? An ola offering. So where did that come into the picture? Right? Why do you have to bring an ola offering, an extra korban, now that you can't afford an asham, the animal? So says Ibn Ezra, a beautiful thought. He says that someone who has to bring the bird offering, right? He's been judged that he does not have the means to bring an animal, right? He might have a negative pull in his heart. Might pull some negative heartstrings, thinking that my neighbor, Mr. Schwartz, right? When he does something wrong, he brings a korban from behema, right? And me, I'm stuck bringing birds, right? I mean, he might have a complaint in his heart against Hashem. They're putting him in the situation of not being able to bring the Cadillac for his korban, right? Says Ibn Ezra, that negative thought that is possible to come when a person is told that no, you may not bring the best. You must bring a second tier korban. He might have that negative thought in his heart, and when a person has that negative thought in his heart, says Ibn Ezra, he needs a kapara for that thought. So he has to bring an ola. He has to bring an extra korban bird to atone for that thought. Meaning that when a person has to be when a person knows what he can do and does what he can do, he has to be very happy with what he can do, right? Meaning a person cannot exempt himself with less. But at the same time, if a person does what he can, a person should not do only what he can begrudgingly, thinking that if only God would give me more, I could do more, right? No, a person has to be very happy that Hashem is giving me this much, and that's how much I need to do, right? This is what the level that I can serve Hashem at. There's one last little.
That's the Ibn Ezra.
That's Ibn Ezra. That's Ibn Ezra. Meaning the part about. The part about a person has to be happy with what he can do. I mean, I guess that's an outgrowth of what he's saying.
That's right.
But he said that Ibn Ezra's words are Ulai Allah al Ruchay Machshava. Right? Maybe he'll have like a thought in his heart, right? Negative to as a negative thing as to what Hashem has given him. And he says on that he brings the extra ola bird.
Is it typical, or I'm saying, is an ola something that's brought in response
to a negative thought?
Right. I guess
I don't know off the top of my head, but there's actually such a concept could exist. So it's not the same thing. It's a similar idea of a korban. The Ramban explaining why like a seemingly extra korban is brought is also, he said, the Ramban says by a mitzora that the Ramban explains the Ramban by mitzora says in the words, the Torah says, V'chiper olav hakoyin v'toher. that after the Mitzvah already brought his chatos, his asham, on the mincha and the ola that he brings, the Torah says again, v'chiper alav. What kapara does he need now? He just brought his chatos, right? He just brought his sin offering. Ramban says, he says, Ulai ha'asham yechaper al ma'alay asher. I'm sorry. Yechaper al ma'alay asher ma'al koidem nigoy. I'm sorry. V'chatas al cheta yeshachata b'mei ha'nega. Ulai b'tzarei nasan tifla lekim. Obviously, he's not going on the oila mincha. But he's going on each part of what. I don't have that part of the Ramban on this. That the Ramban's going on the chatas. He says in the asham mechaper, chatas mechaper, and the ola mincha mechaper. So the Ramban goes through what each one is. So on the chatas part, he says the chatas is for that asher chatav naga ulai b'tzarei nasan tivli lekim. Maybe he complained against Hashem during the days of his what are we all doing now? We are all in isolation. Thank you. In his days of isolation, seeing this today, it struck me really hard that the Mitzvah in his state of isolation might have complaints on Hashem for putting him in that situation, and therefore he says the Ramban, he brings a chatos after he already brought an asham for being a Mitzvah.
Wow, that is so appropriate. That's amazing.
Thank you, Rabbi Alt, for bringing that out. I was going to skip over that. Anyway, so I just wanted to end off with this quick. I saw it many years ago, and I thought it's a beautiful idea that's like hidden within this big Parashas Vayikra and all the Karbanis. The Ramban says, to find it, the Ramban says, why, with regarding the birds that the Torah picked, for what birds, there are many kosher birds. Torah picked pigeons and turtle doves as like birds that you may bring as a carbon, right? As a carbon place, carbon of birds. Why those two? And then why, as well, a ben yoina, a turtle dove, may only be brought before it turns one, and after one it is no longer kosher to be brought as a carbon. And on the opposite end, a pigeon can only be brought as a 1-year-old bird, not as a ben. It says torim or bnei yoina, right? To the adult torim or bnei yoina, child yoinas, right? So why the switch? So the Ramban says, beautiful thing. The tar is a singular among the birds, that a tar will not mate with more than one other bird. Meaning they become a pair. Whenever two tarim become a pair, they become a pair for life. And they won't switch. Meaning if one dies or is somehow lost, right, the other one will never remarry, so to speak. Right? And that was a lesson to Klal Yisrael. That Klal Yisrael, meaning not necessarily a lesson, but more a parable of Klal Yisrael and Hashem, that they are attached to each other, right? And that Klal Yisrael will never attach themselves to another God ever, right? That is represented by the Torah that never find a new mate ever again, right? There's only one for them, right? So too between us and Hashem, there's only one for us. That is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no one else for us to attach to. And on the opposite end, the Yonim, a Yonah, they are birds that will switch mates, right? Whenever they please, right? And so says Hashem, that you may not bring an adult Yonah because it represents that bad trait of switching, right, for more than one partner. But a Ben Yonah, on the contrary, has a characteristic that is also representative of the Jewish people. For it says Ramban, Yonah bekatnusa. Sorry, I'm not quoting the right words. Am I? Yeah, I am. Ki Yonah bekatnusa az tesev is ava bekan gidula Yos Mishar Ovos. A Yonah, while it is a small bird, has a tremendous love for the nest where it grew up, right? That the Chazal say any bird that you touch its nest, right? The birds will leave, but the Yonah will never leave its nest. So too Klal Yisrael clings to their Torah and their Creator and will never switch it, right, for anything else, right? Ella oy Yehudi oy tzaluf. I'm not sure exactly how to translate tzaluf, but it sounds like nothing, right? Meaning we are Klal Yisrael attaches himself to the Rebbeinu Shalom. There's no other option for us. That is what is represented by the Ben Yoina that we sacrifice. I always thought this was just a beautiful Ramban to share.
The Bnei Yonah, that, what is it? What is it?
The Torah will never take another mate.
Right.
Right? But so that's only represented when they're older, when they're old enough to mate, right? So therefore we bring an adult Torah. But a Yonah, on the other hand, will switch mates. So therefore we do not bring a adult Yonah, but a Ben Yonah, which is until he's 1 year old, has this Mila, has this characteristic, that tremendous characteristic that never leaves its nest. It will never attach itself to a different nest. So we have our nest, so to speak, of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we'll never leave. That is what we learn from the Torah and the Ben Yonah that we see. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful Shabbos.